Cynthia, bad news for you, you have to follow those. We are so very fortunate that Cynthia Moore Hardy accepted our invitation to give the 2018 commencement address. The President and Chief Executive Officer of Lake Health, one of the region's premier healthcare systems, Ms. Moore Hardy has served as chair of the Ohio Hospital Association Board. She currently sits on the boards of the Greater Cleveland Food Bank, the Cleveland chapter of the Alzheimer's Association, Fifth Third Bank, the Holden Arboretum, and Ursuline College. Ms. Moore Hardy has been recognized as Leader of the Year by Leadership Lake County, Outstanding Woman Leader of the Year by United Way of Lake County, one of Modern Healthcare's top 25 minority executives in healthcare, a distinguished woman in healthcare by the Visiting Nurses Association, and a business healthcare hero by Cranes Cleveland. She is in the Northeast Business Hall of Fame, has received the OHA James R. Castle Distinguished Service Award, as well as Ohio State University's College of Nursing Distinguished Alumna Award. And most recently, she received the 2018 Ruth A. Densmore Senior Advocate Award, given by the Lake County Area Council on Aging. Ms. Moore Hardy's incredible record of achievement makes her the perfect person to address one of Andrews Osborne Academy's most accomplished senior classes. I am pleased to introduce Ms. Cynthia Moore Hardy.
Thank you, right. I hate having to follow these great speakers, but I'll do my best. Good afternoon, and I'd really like to thank a few people before I start. Mr. Kenneth Graham, who is the chairman of the board, the Honorable Vincent Collada, who is the vice chair, Dr. Larry Goodman, who is the head of Andrews Osborne Academy, and then all of the members of the board and faculty for allowing me this honor to speak to the graduating class of 2018. So hopefully I didn't miss anyone. I'd like to have I won't say a speech since I know I'll never beat what they've been able to do, but let's say a conversation today about lifelong learning. And why would I talk about that? I mean, this is graduation day, and perhaps you might feel like you're finished with the learning that you need to do. But learning really is a lifelong process that must become as natural to us as breathing and eating. We must constantly educate ourselves and become lifelong students, or we risk actually becoming obsolete. Lifelong learning is the only way to remain competitive in the job market and, frankly, to remain just an interesting person. You must invest in your own growth and development and self-renewal, and approach this as if you're your own company investing in research and development, so that you'll be more open to new ideas. Problems will begin to feel more like opportunities instead of barriers that you can't get over, and then your overall approach to life will be more forward-thinking and refreshed. Now, your university or your employer may help you with this, but really it is your responsibility. In my opinion, your future employability, ability to be a parent, a better spouse, really depends on your having this relentless drive to update your credentials, acquire new skills, and stay abreast of what is happening in your field, in your community, and in the world around you. So, the bad news is graduation is not the end of homework, but really is the beginning of homework that you must assign yourself. Again, it needs to be a regular part of your routine, so we've already talked about how much you already invest in extracurricular activities, a lot of volunteerism that we've already heard about. You need to continue to do that because this will actually help you continue to learn. Now, not all learning is from doing some of those positive things that you've heard so much about today already. But a lot of learning is from life experiences, both the good experiences and the bad experiences. About 8 years ago, one of my closest friends died of breast cancer. And when she was first diagnosed, and during the course of her illness, I prayed constantly. Of course, I wanted her to get better. But I prayed not just about her health and her well-being, but about what I could learn from that experience. You know, I saw this thing happening to her that just felt so awful, and why go through something like that if you can't learn from it? So I did try to learn from that. And I really realized that not all learning comes from books, because from her I learned about courage, faith, hope, and having a positive attitude no matter what our reality is. At Lake Health, we wanted to create a continuous learning environment, an environment of continuous improvement. And in wanting to do that, we learned about a Toyota system that involves Lean and Six Sigma. So I won't bore you with what Lean and Six Sigma is and what it can do for you, but it is a business management system. And one of the principles in that system is called Kaizen. So if we think about the definition of Kaizen, it's really the relentless pursuit for a better way, continuous improvement. It's a daily pursuit for a better way, always challenging yourself, trying to do new things, to learn new things. It keeps you reaching and trying to outdo yesterday. And really, these days, no one can afford to rest on a reputation anymore. Circumstances change too quickly. And what we consider good today is really so-so by tomorrow, and this is especially true in the business world, if we just think of how fast technology is changing. Again, every person must assume personal responsibility for improving their own performance, be in a constant state of renewal. As I think about my own life and I think about how I started my career, I was originally a registered nurse. I mean, I still am, but that's how I started my career. And I knew that I wanted to get an advanced degree. And I could have got a master's in science of nursing, but I decided, maybe I'll get an MBA, because who knows, maybe I'll end up working in a bank or running a business. You know, I thought, how can I diversify myself so that I'll be prepared for whatever life throws at me? And this was really sort of my start, my beginning to think about lifelong learning and how I could be more flexible and adaptable in the world. So lifelong learning really has to be sort of an attitude that we take on, and the attitude that we take on in terms of this really is applied to every situation in our life. And this attitude is probably more important than anything. When I think about the attitude that we need to have towards lifelong learning, this is the attitude that really determines what our altitude might be. It's not so much sometimes how smart you are that determines where you end up. It's sort of, you know, your attitude, your determination, you know, your sense of what you want to accomplish, and having the attitude not to be, that no barrier is too big for you. So if we think about our attitude determining our altitude, I have trouble with the light. I think about the great Christian writer Charles Swindoll, and he expressed this, that attitude is more important than facts, than the past, than education, than money, than circumstances, than failures, than success, than what other people say or do. Attitude is more important than appearance or skill. It can make or break a company, a church, a home, a person. So despite what we achieve, sometimes we do hear negatives all around us from the media, our families, and friends. And you'll want to be careful not to buy into all the things that they're saying. Now, there's a lot with cyberbullying and all sorts of things that happen, not just as a student, but even as an adult. You may sometimes feel victimized what some people are saying about the future or about you, but you are not alone. What they say can be hurtful and discouraging if you let it. Now, who would have guessed that one of Abraham Lincoln's teachers said, "When you consider Abe has only had 4 months of school, He's good at his studies, but he's a daydreamer and asks foolish questions. Happily, Abe decided not to take the critique too seriously. His daydreaming paid off, and his thoughtful questions turned out to be not so foolish after all. And then, of course, there's Albert Einstein. You would have thought he, of all people, would have had it easy, but no such luck. Albert's poor parents got this report card. Albert is a very poor student, and this was not in the politically correct days, but I'll read it anyway. He's mentally slow, unsociable, and always daydreaming. He's spoiling it for the rest of the class, and it would be in his best interest if he were removed from the school. Of course, Albert went on to fail his college entrance exams, but as they say, the rest is history with Albert Einstein. The point here is not to model your lives after Lincoln or Einstein. The point is that there will always be voices out there that will issue a diagnosis or an unfavorable comment, something that will, or someone that will try to cut off your options or make grim predictions for the future. But you must learn to stand up for yourself, for your goals, for your dreams. And don't let anyone decide your future. Let your attitude, not someone else's judgments, determine your altitude and not take your dreams from you. Now, Lincoln and Einstein weren't the only people criticized, and that went on to do great things. Moses, if I go all the way back, for instance, was labeled a stutterer. St. Paul had epilepsy. Thomas Edison and F. Scott Fitzgerald had learning disabilities. And so do Daniel Radcliffe and Demi Lovato. Yet, each of them made significant contributions to their field. Their attitude determined their altitude. You are responsible for your attitude. You must guard against letting anyone or anything destroy your self-confidence or damage your credibility or reputation. You must be able to cope with change and accept it as a way of life. So take charge of your moods, act upbeat, and you start to feel better. Show resilience. Bounce back on your own rather than allowing yourself to wallow in negative emotions such as anger, depression, or grief. In most corporations or businesses, there is rapid organizational change. There's downsizing. All sorts of things can happen. The introduction of robotics will certainly replace jobs. The use of artificial intelligence will change the way we work. All in the need to create efficiency or to make better products. And it guarantees that each one of us will have to change how we do things. It guarantees that each one of us will have some battle scar in the years to come as we prepare to deal with these changes. So you have a choice to be bitter about those changes, how they affect you, or demonstrate your ability to take a punch. You can carry a grudge, or as they say, get over it. My dad always shared with us a story about the willow tree and how flexible and resilient it was. That in a storm, it sort of bends down to one side, but as the storm breaks up and goes away, the willow tree starts to stand back up. And in that, he told us to be flexible, to bend but not break. So I'd like to share with you 6 points as you graduate today that may help you to bend but not break, to have that attitude that you need for a successful future. The first one is make bold choices and find something that really matters to you. When you find something that really matters to you, you find a way to accomplish that goal. The second is do what you set out to do. This will require persistence, commitment, and sometimes failure. Failure has to be perceived as a learning experience. Persistence and commitment are critical to success. I know that you have those character traits or you wouldn't be graduating today. You are already on the road to success. 3, be the kind of person that you can respect. Don't cut corners. Be honest with yourself and others. Persevere. Refuse to accept anything but your best and the best from others. Don't settle. Accept failure as a learning experience. Take responsibility for what you say or do, for what you think. It means keeping your word, delivering on your promises, and being faithful to your spouse, your family, and work. It means setting your own internal standards and not comparing yourself to others. It means not worrying about who gets the credit, but getting the job done. 4, fulfill your potential. Decide once and for all that you'll try to be the best you can at whatever you do. It's not the years of life, but the life in your years that really count. 5, learn to enjoy the process of life, not just the rewards. We live in a goal-oriented society, and many of us want to achieve that success very quickly. I mean, we want oatmeal, but we want it in 1 minute. We want our browsers to work, but good grief if it takes more than 2 seconds for it to come up. We just want to live in that instant culture. But we have to learn to live one day at a time, enjoy it, celebrate small victories, and realize that life is a journey. Work hard, but take some time to have fun. And number 6 is really something that you've been taught at Andrews Osborne, which brings me to self-reliance. By relying on your own abilities, judgment, and knowledge, you gain emotional strength along with a sense of accomplishment and a sense of pride that will set you apart as a leader and a role model. Life is a series of choices. We have the freedom to choose every day between kindness and cruelty, immediate reward and long-term gain, hope or despair. The choice that determines all choices is really our attitude and our approach to life. Will we choose that attitude that life is a learning process and each day must count, or will we choose to coast, lose hope, and be angry? Every choice that we make has a consequence. So choose wisely as you ask yourself today, as a new graduate, how high do you want to soar? Congratulations, class of 2018.